back on Steel and Vance. And the dream of home ownership, Lynda, oftentimes gets stuck at the strata curb.
Well, I was going to say, we have a lot of things in common, but one of the things that is different, Jody is a homeowner, lives in a single detached. I am a homeowner, lives in a condo in a strata. And, it's great because you can just lock the door and hopefully everything is going to be fine unless the neighbor left the sink on and they have a big
oops
leak
Shout out to Claire Martin.
But there are some issues where the government gets involved, as we saw recently with removing rental restrictions, and that has caused a little flurry of stratas going, maybe we're going to be plus 55.
Because that's the caveat, right? Because, okay, let's just do a little history for somebody who's like, what happened with the stratas? Because it's a big change in the Premier's plan to open up more rental properties,
there were rental restrictions. They said you can't do that anymore unless you're a 55 plus building. So a bunch of little stratas went, maybe we're going to go 55 plus. There are issues doing that, as we're about to find out. But here's the new headline around stratas that just came out this week, and I thought, oh no, look at this. The problem now is a critical shortage in experienced property managers of stratas. Some stratas self-manage, but if you've ever been a strata on council or a strata president, it's not fun. It is a volunteer job that requires an enormous amount of effort and expertise.
Everybody's coming at you all the time. I'm not part of a strata, but my stepdad was at their vacation property. They have snowbirds, and he, very diligent, smart, builder type of person, very mild-mannered when it comes to dealing with conflict. And he was like, I cannot do this. I cannot. Like, you got to be special.
There's a lot of things. Strata insurance, we're going to talk about that as well, because that was a big story last year and the year before. So let's bring in Tony Gioventu, who is Executive Director of the Condo Homeowners Association of BC. Tony, thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure as always. Yeah, now, lots happening in the strata world for sure.
Right, you're earning your wage for sure. So I live in a small strata, and it has been a challenge over the years just to even find a property manager to deal with a small 16-unit strata. 50% shortage. How many property managers do we need? Tell us how big of a problem this is.
Well, it's not just a BC problem, it's a Canada-wide problem. So it's an industry that when you're dealing with condos, you're not only managing a property, but you're also having to manage all of the requirements of some pretty complex legislation, in addition to human rights code and residential tenancy laws. So, you start pulling all these things together, you're looking for fairly experienced, qualified individuals, and we just have an enormous shortage of them across the country right now. So, in BC, we have 34,000 strata corporations. About 22,000 of them are 50 units or less, and almost all of those are self-managed. So, it's when you start putting that into numbers, it makes you realize how many volunteers we have out there doing the day-to-day, you said the complication of the challenging situations, these volunteers dealing with challenging situations. It's tough work.
Is there a resource for someone? I have another friend of mine who's lived in her strata for, 3 decades. It's not new to them. And she's like, you know what? I'm diving in. I'm going to do it. And then all of a sudden, she's getting emails, like 10, 20, 30 emails a day. And she's like, no, can't do it. Is there like a resource for people who want to do right by their strata complex?
Well, as a provincial association, we provide seminars and workshops and education programs across the province. We do a lot of support for strata corporations, big or large, that are, might be managed, or those that are not managed, with respects to how their meetings are conducted. And we have just loads of resources on the website to help support strata councils. But, that's another challenge for strata corporations. You've got this constant changing leadership team every year. In some cases, the strata council changes entirely. Hopefully, a number of people are dedicated and they stay on board for 5 or 10 years to keep stability. But everything's fine until you end up with individuals who are incredibly troublesome. They do a lot of damage, a lot of harm in communities, and people just get exhausted by the conflict.
Yeah. I'll admit it, I was not happy when the NDP government came out and said, we're going to remove rental restrictions from stratas. I get the fact that we're in a housing crisis, but that's like government telling a single detached homeowner, oh, you have an extra bedroom that's not being used. We demand that you rent that out. Anyway, so I wasn't surprised to hear that some buildings were going, let's maybe go for the 55 plus. How often is that happening, and what should people be wary of?
Well, the 55 plus has been referred to as a loophole. It's not a loophole. If you go to occupancy to 55 plus, the units can still be rented, but it simply means that occupants coming in are going to have to be 55 and over. But the difficulty that we have with age restriction bylaws is when you pass an age restriction bylaw, you tend to captivate individuals who don't comply with that age restriction bylaw. So it comes now down to a issue of fairness and use of property. So, we've gone into a 55 and over bylaw, but there's a young couple in their 20s that are about to have kids. Is it really a reasonable expectation that they bought, it was before there was a bylaw? Are they going to have to sell and move? And I think you can anticipate with the Premier's announcement that there are going to be a number of regulations that are going to set some accommodations for family status and for special circumstances in buildings.
Before we let you go, can you please weigh in on Strata Insurance? Because I know I was worried about finding insurance I could afford, and now with the removal of rental restrictions, more renters can mean higher Strata Insurance for the building as well.
We actually haven't seen that yet for insurance renewals, but it's early days, right? It really comes down to a case-by-case situation. On the upside, Strata Insurance has improved vastly in the past 18 months. Lots more capacity available. The brokers are working hard. Deductibles and pricing are coming down. So we've seen a significant improvement on the insurance sector. But, building by building, if you have lots of compounded claims, it's going to be very difficult to pay for your insurance, obtain insurance, and maintain it. But insurance brokers and insurers are now asking the questions, how many rentals in your building? So I think they're starting to evaluate what those risks might relate to.
Oh, it's challenging living in a strata. Tony Gioventu, thank you so much for your insights. We really appreciate it.
A pleasure as always. Have a great day.
You as well. Tony Gioventu is the executive director of the Condo Homeowners Association of BC. So much to know.
So much to know. What a great resource for us to be able to tap into Tony's expertise. As you said, so many people find themselves thinking, okay, I've got this sorted. It's figured out. I know exactly what I've bought into. Whoa, hold on. Everything's changed.
Right.
As if the Airbnb piece wasn't enough of a...
That's another issue.
We're going to get to that
day.
Yeah. We'll go there maybe next week or the week after because people are talking about this. Holy.
Indeed. Still ahead, though.
Yeah.
The walls are closing in for Donald Trump as the first of what could be many indictments is about to be announced. What does it mean for his re-election bid? Washington correspondent and friend of the show, Reggie Cecchini, joins us next.